got Old Faithful with me here. This guy used to be white, and now she's yellow, and I mean, I could separate the pages, and they're just kind of floating around in there. I don't have any slides for you guys today, but if anybody, wants to pull open their app or anything that I reference is mostly going to be out of Ephesians 3. And I'm going to keep going with kind of what James was talking about there for a minute. Is I kind of asked the Lord, I said, what are we going to talk about on Sunday? And he just started flooding me with these miraculous works that he had done in my life. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to tell you stories. And I have a lot of stories to tell you. And I don't know if we'll have time to get through most of them, actually. But what's going to happen during that time is that flame is going to be renewed inside of you, that burning. See, we serve a powerful God, a mighty God. Not just, and a lot of times we'll say that in agreement. We'll say, yeah, like it's something that we know because we've been taught that every day in church. But no, like we actually serve a living, powerful, all-consuming God, and Tyler's right. The seed of death that was planted into the world will continue to increase unto death, such is the law of sowing and reaping. They sow death, they're going to reap death and confusion. That's what's going to happen. But I guarantee you that everywhere that you go, you have the ability to change. What about the homeless man? On one side, you might have a homeless man that's sitting on the curb and he's drinking and he's littering. That's an effect that he's making on the world. You feed him life, put him in a house, build him a drywall. He's got a different life, and he's going to begin to change the circumstances around him. So yes, they will sow unto death, but I'm telling you, there's a lot more. I'm 1,000% sure that there's a lot more sons than we think. And I think we'll be incredibly surprised when we get to heaven how many people are actually there. It is not his will that anybody should perish. None of them. And so that brings me to my first story. Man, I was a kid, 16 years old. And probably from age, my mom gave me away when I was 8. So from age 8 to probably 22, I maybe had like 5 years as a free man. I bounced around institutions, foster homes, just whatever you could imagine. There was these two guys that, Justin Quaby, I'll never forget him, but they were like young men, like 25, 26, and they were on fire for the Lord. And they were like, this kid, we're gonna change him, right? And I really wasn't trying to hear it, I was trying to live my life and be crazy, and, I was just devastated and ripped apart anyway. But anyway, so, they tried, and they would come, and they actually did make an effort. They made a real effort. And so they finally got me to go to this youth camp thing, something like that. And I was like, I'll go just so you leave me alone. Basically, I'm serious. I'll go just so you leave me alone. I mean, I was raised in church. I knew this Jesus guy. I knew this God guy. I knew that, the cross, and he forgave me for my sins. But as far as like, what do you do with all that? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go live life, and then Jesus paid for everything, right? Yeah. Terrible way of thinking, but that's where I was, just out inside the world trying to live my best life. I go to this youth camp. I say, all right, I'm at this youth camp. And it was one of the worship songs that they were playing. And it just felt like the air was electric. And I was like, what is happening here? It's like you could cut the air with a knife and just slice chunks of it out. It was electric, and I could just see things that were tripping me out real hard as a 16-year-old kid. I was like, what is this? What is this? And this was my first experience with the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. You see, when we read in the Old Testament, there's varying forms of God that you find out about in your relationship. But the one of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac is the same God, but that was always in the, remember the Lord of Abraham, Jacob. That was when something heavy was finna come down. Fire was coming. There was some big stuff happening. Remember the Lord of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac. This is the first time I met him in this way. So I said, all right. So at the end of the youth group, they had this thing where they were going to put into practice, and there were 3 different areas. One, people were giving away sandwiches to the homeless people. Another, people were doing evangelism. But as I was sitting there in the with the electric, I was like, this is the God that we got? what are we going to do? Go hit the streets? I will go out into these streets and wreck these streets, right? So we're in Texas in a ghetto neighborhood. And when I say ghetto neighborhood, it's not Portland ghetto neighborhood. It's a neighborhood where they're battling block to sell drugs on the street. They're shooting, there's murders. Cops don't even go there. They don't even go there because let them kill each other, right? We'll stay on the white neighborhood, white side of town where, and that's the one we'll police. But they don't go there. So when I talk about the hood, it's not like downtown hood here. It's like the real hood, right? Where if you're wearing the wrong colors, you might get shot, right? So anyway, this is the hood that they decided to take the kids to to pray in evangelism. And so I'm with this guy, and he's got this plan. The whole church comes together, and they know we're going into a dangerous atmosphere or whatever. And so they sit and they pray, and they're like, okay, and every step that we're going to take is prayed over and blessed. And they say, we're going down this line. This is all the blessing is happening. It's about 2 houses in. I just tell the guy, I said, man, we got to go across the street. And he's like, we are not going across this. The guy was heading up, it was me and a group of like 2 or 3 other kids. And then this guy who was like the guy, he was like the evangelist guy, right? I was like, we got to go across the street, man. I'm telling you, the Lord is telling me we go across the street. And he's like, we're not going across the street. And so I just keep after him like, we got to go across the street, man. We got to go across the street. So he's like, all right. We're going to go across the street, right? This is totally outside of the church. We're stepping out of authority for this kid that we don't even know this kid, right? But, there was something, I believe, he heard the Lord, right? Obviously, he heard the Lord. And so we go across the street. There's a particularly dilapidated group of houses that are on this row. And we hit the first one. We knock on the door. They open the door. And before the evangelist guy can say, like, we had, bullet points. We're going to hit here, here, here. We're going to try. Is there anything we can pray for? Well, we open the door, and I just let loose on this family. And I can't even remember what I said at the time. The only thing that I could remember is this fire just pouring out, burning through this entire household. And so in that house right there, the entire family, children, wife, husband, they all gave their lives to the Lord. First one, I went next door, same thing, whole family. Went next door, same thing, whole family. On the entire block that we went, house after house after house after house, entire families giving their lives to the Lord, accepting Jesus for the first time. And I was like, after like house 3, I was like, oh, the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac, like that's who we serve. So when we get to the last house, there's a lady there. And she's withered up, man. She must be like 75, 80. And she's on one of those chairs that they, I don't know what they're called, but you have like a joystick thing and you can roll around. But she's just messed up. And, so I go in. And at this point, the evangelism guy, he's like, you go ahead, man. Whatever you're going to say, just go ahead and say it. So we get in there, and I'm telling them, the people are like, yeah, we're ready to give their lives to the Lord. And then they started telling me about this woman. So as I'm walking up to the last house, there's this crow, and I'm mentioning this because it will make sense in a minute. There's this crow that flies off and locks eyes with me and goes, ha, 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 and is just cawing at me. And I'm on fire. I'm looking at this crow, and I'm like, who does this bird think she is? I can discern that there's something wrong with this bird, right? And he's locking eyes on me, and as I'm walking, he takes off flying, but the bird's not looking where he's going. He's staring dead into my eyes, cawing at me. Hits the stop sign, boom, crumples and dies. I'm not kidding. And then we go into the house, and so I'm like, yeah, this is, I'm going to get whatever's happening in here. I don't know anything about the Lord. At this point in time, I'm a drug addict. I'm addicted to like 10 different substances. I'm not kidding. I do not even know what parenting is. I'm a rebellious child. I've been in and out of jail my entire childhood. So I'm not like your cookie cutter. This is who we have trained, right? This is the man that we have trained, and I'm like the worst. I'm the worst. All I knew is that after that electricity, all I knew was that I don't got to be nothing. This is Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac, pow, fire. So we get to this last house, and the lady, she's all withered. And so the people, they say, yeah, we're, the other house, yeah, we're ready to accept Jesus. But can you pray for this lady right here? That's their grandmother. It might have been great-grandmother. I was young. And so I found out that the lady was a witch doctor in Africa. So she had came from Africa, but she was actually well versed in black magic. Well, very, very deep and dark, and it was probably that crow, you know what I'm saying? They didn't want me to come nowhere near this house. But anyway, so I'd just start hitting her. And still to this day, I can't remember what I said, but I start hitting her, bam, bam, bam. And she can barely like just move from the neck up. And as I'm hitting, I say, are you ready to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? And she said, yes, like that. And I prayed over her, boom, right there. And I said, okay. As I left, and we get back, and so the church does like a follow-up thing with everybody that accepts Christ, and they go and they give their, here's some bulletins that you can read, and like a little book, and like if you need anything, you know, new visitor card form type thing to follow up. Told me that that lady, after we left the house, died. So she died. She was old. She was, you know, she had to be top 80s, right? But at the very last point in her life, filled with evil, voodoo, all type of weird stuff, here comes the Lord right there to her to set her free and take her out. Those type of people will be in heaven. That's the type of God that you carry around with you, right? Everywhere that you go. So that was my first experience with this you know, Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, you know, just craziness. And that's who you're carrying around with you. That's what you've got. This isn't, you know, through life, you're like, yeah, you know, I remember being in youth group and the fire ignited, and then somehow, you know, like I had kids, I had husband and da-da-da-da-da, and then, you know, I just don't know what happened. No, there's a burning that should and is and changes, and it's constant. This is a real God that we're serving. Same thing, while I was on my way to Oregon. Man, I'm only on number 2. There's like 20 here. I'm not going to get to them. But so anyway, how I got to Oregon is I just decided my life was wrecked in Texas, even through all of this, knowing the Lord like that. Knowing that that's the type of God that loves me and cares for me, I was still bad. Just the definition of bad. So, you know, my life was wrecked. I ended up losing my custody of my daughter. It was just broken. You know, I got a restraining order put on me. I couldn't even come within like 100 feet of her or her school. It was devastating, man. So I was like, man, I'm out of here. I'm just going to leave. So I piled up everything that I got, and I decided I'm going to go, you know, to the very, very tip, and I actually had a warrant out for my arrest in Texas. So I was like, I'm going to go to the other side of the country and see if they want to come get me over there, you know. That's my thought. So I get in and I'm driving. As I'm driving, I go through Colorado. I take some time in Colorado, and you know, everything's there. And we're not really going to get into what happened in Colorado, although there was some things that happened. But anyway, so I get out of Colorado, and I'm driving up, and I decide to go through, you know, see places that I never seen. I was going to cut through Montana and Wisconsin and see Yellowstone and all of that. So I'm driving this like 1976 K5 Blazer. I'm getting like 3 miles to the gallon. I'm serious. It's horrible. I'm spending everything that I got to get here, right? And so I run, my gas gauge doesn't work, and so I run out of gas, and all I have is a 1-gallon gas tank. And so I get 7 miles to the gallon, and when I ran out of the gas, the next gas station was 21 miles away. So that means I hoofed it 3 times to get this gas. And every time, as I'm walking with this gas pail, I'm just walking down the side of the road, someone picks me up, they take me to the gas station, and then they bring me back to my car, and I make it another 4 or 5 miles. And then I get out and start walking again, and another person picks me up and takes me back. After the second time, I decided to go knock on someone's door. I was like, this is, you know, the Lord's going to get me here for sure after this, you know, after the second time. So I'm carrying my gas tank, and I see a house there out in the country, and I just knock on the door. I'm like, bro, can you help me? Can you tell? He's like, yeah. He gets out of the car, takes me. I'm like, Montana is amazing. These are the best people I've ever seen. I finally get to the gas station, and I'm able to fill up. And I'm passing through Montana. Everything goes well, but I'm passing through Idaho. And there's the little corridor. Kellogg, Idaho is where I was passing. I was passing through Idaho into Washington. And there's just literally like 5 miles of Idaho to go through. Now, I might not be like, but it's like 20 or something weak, you know, like there's not much of Idaho to pass through. It's just a little corridor. But anyway, I'm driving through here, and I get off on the thing, and I hear whoop, 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 whoop in Idaho. And I'm like, dang, man. I don't have a driver's license. We'll get to how we got that in a minute. But I don't have a driver's license, so I'm like just driving across the country with no driver's license. So I'm like, dang, man, I'm probably going to get a ticket. Worst case scenario, they're going to impound my car. But I had like, $600 on me. So I'm like, they impound it. I'm already doing all these calculations, like $200 to get it out, maybe 250. I'll be good. I'll still be able to get there, right? And so I'm driving through, and the guy, because I have Colorado plates now on my K5 Blazer, I mean, they take the seats out. They take the steering wheel. It was just, I was like, bro, what do you got? Because they're looking for cannabis. And the guy says, I found cannabis dust in your floor seat. You're going to jail. I said, you found what? I said, can I see it? He said, no, you can't. I don't have to show it to you. And I said, I'm not guilty. This is, so I go all the way to court, and I'm like, I'm sure there's nothing in the car. I'm not guilty. There's no way that I'm going to jail. So I get into the courtroom, and she's like, how do you plead? And I said, I plead not guilty, And she's like, okay, then we're going to set your court date 23 days later. So I go, the guys, when I'm in the jail, they're like, bro, you should have just told them you were guilty. You'd been out, in a couple hours. They'd have been like, bad, pay the fine and get out. And I was like, but now you're not guilty. You got to go to court for them to prove that you're guilty. So I'm sitting in there. I'm like, I ain't tripping. I got bond money. I'm gonna be all right. So I'm going through all of my bonds, and everyone's like, you're out of state. We're not going to bond you out. So I'm stuck there for 23 days. 23 days. My car is impounded at a rate of $250 per day with everything that I own in it. So anyway, I still know this same God, this God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. And, so I told the story before of escaping one time. So basically, I'm in maximum security in any county that I go to just because of previous record. And all these people are facing large time, big time. So I decide to start a prayer circle in the back of the jail cell. I'm doing this prayer circle, and we're praying for everybody. And these people are starting to change. So there's this one guy, he's in there on like $16 million of tax evasion. And it's like 2 days before I have my court date. I know that I'm getting out, but I'm penniless. I know that I can't. I mean, I've got the like $560, $600, but I know that at $250 a day, I can't afford my car. I can't afford all of my stuff in it. I'm just stuck in Idaho at this point. This guy's name is Stanley, and he's like, I want to help you out. He's like, what kind of car do you have? I said, it's a K5 Blvd, bro. It's amazing. It's beautiful. You'd love it. And he's like, I'm going to help you out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy your K5 Blazer from you. And in turn, I'm going to give you a Saturn. And then whenever you get to wherever you're going, you can bring my Saturn back and bring me my money, and I'll give you your K5. This random guy in jail calls his friend up to give him power of attorney over his finances so that the guy can take me. So as I get out of jail, there's this old man, he's like 70-something, driving down the road, and he's just got the window rolled down in this little gold beat-up Saturn. He's like, Grim? And I'm like, that's me. So I get in the car with this stranger. This stranger has power of attorney. He takes me to the K5 Blazer, pays in full the towing fee ticket, takes it, allows me to get all of my stuff out of it, put it in my Saturn, and then he takes the K5 Blazer, and I'm down the road with the Saturn. I'm out. So I'm driving through, and I said, okay, Lord, I'm just going to put in job applications as I'm driving and stopping. I'm looking on Craigslist. I do concrete work, piece of cake. Somebody's pouring some concrete out here. And whichever one calls me first. I had a job in Spokane. I had a job down here in Portland. And they were like, I was like, whichever one calls me first, that's the way I'm going. So I'm driving through. Guy from Portland calls me. He's like, yeah, can you do this? I said, yeah, I can do that. He said, okay, when can you be here? I said, I can be there like as soon as possible. What are you talking about? He's like, get here at 7 a.m. in the morning. I'll start you at $40 an hour. I said, done. I'm driving. So I drive all night to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm homeless in this Saturn. I've left most of my stuff behind because what fits in a K5 Blazer doesn't fit in a Saturn. So I've got like my bare essentials and my concrete tools. So I end up taking that, and I stay outside of the Red Lion, which is closed now. And every morning I would go in there and pretend like I lived like I was staying, and I would eat my breakfast and get just enough for lunch because I had no money. Eat my breakfast, get just enough for lunch, and I'd be back at the job site every day working like that. I would take a shower at Vancouver Lake Park. And there was a time sitting in my Saturn where I was just like, is this what you want for me, Lord? But I had made it. I had made it here, and everything beautifully ordained, miraculously ordained over your life to be here in this specific point. So I'm struggling at this point. I open up the phone, and I'm devastated, and I say, find me I say, okay, Google, hopefully my phone, yep, she's going to answer. I said, find me a church that knows God. Find me a church that knows God. This is some months later, a year or two later. And so it pulls up Celebration Christian Church. And then in the first testimony right there, or the reviews that the Google reviews says, if you're looking for a church that knows God, which was like what I just asked Google. And I was like, well, that's pretty accurate. You know, that's all right. Then that's where I'm going. And guys, there's like hundreds of churches from here to there, from where I was to here. So normally it gives you like the ones in your area. And I get to a Celebration here. We were at Thurman at the time, and I said, man, I'm going to sit in front. I'm going to sit in front because I know the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. And if these people, I was in such a bad place in my life where I needed God so much. I was like, these people don't know the Lord. I was ready to snatch microphone. Like I'm telling you, I came here with an intention to rebel, right? So I sit right in front and I stare Michael dead in his face during his entire sermon. And he blew me away, bro. Blew me away. I'm like, I thought I was alone. This is the only, there's no way that this exists, right? And so I get ready to leave, and if Val's here and you're new, he'll find you. He'll like seek and destroy. Heat seeker missile. If you're new, he's like, that guy's new. Oh, you need to talk to me. I'll be back with you. Get him. And so he'll go and he laid his hand on me right as I was getting out, and I was already blown away. Told me everything about my life, deep things that you're not supposed to know. And so as I left, I'm like, I ain't never coming back here. There's some weird stuff, you know, like something's wrong with this church. They know that, you know, like the CIA work here or something like that. There's something wrong with this church. And so I'm leaving, and Val tells Brother Manu, who's working the sound, he's like, Manu, get his number. And so Manu got my number, and then that same day he hit me up. He's like, hey, you want to hang out? And then adequately came to be like my lifeline to here to make sure I kept coming back and make sure I kept coming back and make sure I kept coming back. Just amazing, just absolutely amazing how the Lord is working at all times, all the way through a Craigslist job to pour concrete in a little bitty cell where you're praying for people, for a man that's in there on 16 million. How much of that was ordained for me? All of it? All of it? Is that too bold to say? But that is the Lord. That is who we're carrying around. That is him. That is him. So anyway, I got this job, and I'm like, all right. Fast forward some years later, and I'm working in a different environment, and once again I'm in a trailer. I have it, but I'm homeless at this point. They're kicking me out of these different places. This is after coming to Celebration City. So if you thought like you get here and it's an instant fix, there's some trials to happen, right? But praise God. In Ephesians 3, that's what it says, that the trial is for your glory. Not even his glory, although he is in you and it is his glory. But your glory, your trial is for your glory. Well, I have had a gang of these, right? And so I'm like, well, all right. So I found my wife. I know that I'm going to marry this woman. And I proposed in a trailer. I proposed at a restaurant, but I was bad. There's no woman on the face of the earth that should have said yes to me. I had nothing to offer. Right? And so I was working at this place. You know, it took me a while to find a place to go, and I finally found a place to go. We finally found a home. Like, I had even gotten kicked out of a Celebration house. I had to live with Diana for a little bit, and she even kicked me out. So it was like my options were exhausted. Even the body was like, bro, you got to go, you know. I didn't have no options left. And so we finally found this thing, and I got this new job. As I'm working this new job, I'm working it, and there's a piece of glass in this laboratory that is not up to specs, and I'm using this piece of equipment, and the piece of equipment explodes in my face in a chemical laboratory. So much so that all of there's stuff on the table and everything behind me, it blows off and hits the back wall. The entire laboratory blew up. I'm serious. And in front of it, I'm looking at the thing like this, right? So this is the job that's paying me, that's giving me the house, because they called them to verify I was going to make $2,000 a week. That's what I was charging him to build this laboratory. So my landlord in this new house that we got that I knew I couldn't afford was calling him to verify. So they replay it back on. I mean, we hit it in slow motion. It's all on 4K. There's a video camera. We hit it in slow motion, and they're just like, I don't understand why, guys. Not a scratch. Not a bruise, not a scratch. Huge shards of glass. Everything in the laboratory is destroyed. Your boy is covered in glass and chemicals and everything else. Not a drop in my eye. My nose isn't irritated, nothing. And when it blew up, I mean, in the camera, I'm like, "Wah!" And so I jump back because that's reaction, right? But when I get out, I'm like, I'm safe, you know, I'm safe. And so the dude is like, what is wrong with you? You know, he's thinking there's something bad going on with me. And I told him, man, there's angels around me that just popped every piece of glass out of the way as it was coming through me, just sanctified me around this explosion. He fired me. So I don't know what's going on with you, but I don't want no part of that. You know, like there's some weird stuff going on. I don't want no part of that. And he fired me. So I come home and I'm breaking the news to, man, you know, to my wife, like, you know, the job that I had that was going to pay for this, I'm fired now. You know, I'm fired. Lord, you know, like, what am I going to do? And so I get another job and I'm barely, it takes me almost 3 weeks to find the job. So I've got a week to pay rent. And I find this job that's going to pay me like 20 bucks an hour. And they're beating me into the ground. But at this point, I'll just take whatever I can get. They're just slamming me into the ground. I'm wasted when I come home every day. I'm just like, I don't want to talk. My every sinus is clogged. There's a whole bunch of like dust and pollen going around. I'm weak. Like, it's just horrible, right? And one day I get up and literally I have 1 day to pay my rent. 1 day to pay my rent. And then the day that I'm supposed to pay my rent is when I wake up and I get mad, right? And so I wake up and I'm like, I gotta be at work at 8. I wake up at like 7:30 and I slam my fist on the ground because I feel horrible. Slam my fist on the bed, and we were sleeping on the floor. We had a mattress, but it was on the floor. We didn't have box spring. I slammed my fist on it and I said, this is, I'd been coming to Celebration for a while. This is how you would treat your son? Where is the Lord God of Elisha? Kind of, you know, show me the Lord God of Elisha. This is how you would treat me. And I just remember the Lord telling me, like, son, if you want to shovel poop for the rest of your life, I will make you the most blessed poop shoveler you've ever seen, right? But if you want to govern like a king, then stand up and act like it. And it was like, at this point, I'm depending on him. And he's saying, go. How many miracles do you need? You know, how many landmarks do you need when you're struggling in disbelief and you have to look back and be like, oh yeah, you're real. How many times do I need to supernaturally keep a lab from killing you, deliver you from getting kidnapped, miraculously give you until you know that, like, dude, just go. I'm gonna cover it. And so I was like, yeah. And so I called the dude, I called the guy and I was like, look, man, I'm not coming to work today. I'm a king. I told him, I'm a king. And I'm telling you that you're blessed by even having me in your company, by even talking to me on the phone. Yeah, I'm the most blessed person you could have here. Your business is going to... So I lay into him, right? And basically had quit, right? And he said, I think you're full of turds. But if you want to come over and have lunch, I'll listen to you. And I said, all right. So I went and I'm walking in, and he's like in a multi-million-dollar house, and I'm walking in like, dang, bro, I could sell this vase, right? Like my old man, I could take this vase right here and pay my rent, you know what I'm saying? Well, I'm walking through, and I'm like, oh, no, you know, the Lord, I'm a king, you know, I'm a king. And so I hit him with that, and I'm like, look, man, this is what I can do. I'm telling you, I'm the best thing that'll ever happen to your laboratory. And he says, all right, I'll give you a chance. I say, you'll give me a chance? He says, yeah, we'll try something different. Monday morning. And I said, nah, bro, if you're serious about me, write me a check for $2,000. After telling him I quit, I'm a king, he doesn't deserve me, write me a check. I told him. He said, $2,000, no problem. Pulls out his checkbook and writes it. And I almost hit the ground there. Like, you know, I'm trying not to weep. I'm like, you know, I got to get out of here, you know. Like, yeah, you know, Monday morning, I got, you know, yeah, you already know. I'm going to do my job. I put it in and I'm going out, and I just weep. I just break down. I come home, and my wife is in the bathroom. I bust in the door. Pow! $2,000. My rent was due that day. $2,000 was my rent. Pop that check down on the thing. Said, look at this. I got the rent right here. So I paid that rent. And from then, every single time I had the money. 3 years, $2,000. God, that was crazy to me because I was living in a trailer. That's the most that I've paid for anything, let alone a house to just live in, right? $2,000 every month. Every month I had it. Till one day I decided, you know what? I can do this on a level where I am a king. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start a business. So I start this entire business. I go in there, $1.9 million. And I'm telling you, I have never built something of this magnitude before. And I told them I can do it. I said, I can do it. I can build this laboratory for you. No problem. And I build it. 1.9, 1.8, something like that was the finished. And after they paid like all the electricians and everything, they're well past the two. They're well past the $2 million. I charged them 60 grand. Should have charged them more, but that's as much faith as I had, right? So I go in there to this boardroom. I got my very first suit. It's actually my engagement, the suit that I wore on my wedding, but I wanted to look legit because I'm charging them, and they looked super legit. They were like, you know, we make money, like you're $1.9 million, you know, that's nothing. We're investing that, right? And I'm like, $60,000 would change my life right now, you know? So I go in there, bam, you know, and I'm suited up the best that I know how to do. As I get to the thing, I receive a phone call, and I got to go back. As I get to the board meeting, where all of these guys are about to see, am I worth, can I do this job? They're praying. They're praying around the table, and they say, Lord, we've got our finances together. We have brought it all together. Now send us somebody that can make this work. And before I walked in the door, the Lord says, I sent them you. You're the answer to their prayer. And I walked in there and was like, this is how we're going to do it, right? And just hit them with it, with confidence in the Lord, having never done it before. Having never done it before. I've been in business almost 3 years, well over 180 grand a year. Yeah, from nothing. Anyway, so, and that's just money. That's just money things. You know, there's a guy, and still to this day I do this. There's a guy, his name is Hugo. He called me, and he's like, look, man, I need this new revolutionary technology. No one has it yet. Can you do it? I say, yes, I can do it. What are we doing? I'm going to do it right now, you know? And so as he's telling him, I just start hitting him. I'm hitting, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. So he goes in and he's like, all right, how much is that going to cost? That's going to be $10,000. That's how much it's going to charge me, you know? Like, here we go. And so he said, all right, pay the $10,000. He came back, he said, Grim, it didn't work. I said, oh no. I said, are you sure it didn't work? He said, yeah, it didn't work. I said, okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me consult my board of directors on what we're going to do. I'm serious. I'm in a basement. I'm serious. I'm in a basement, a ghetto basement. Everybody seen my basement. You guys know what's going down over there. So it looks a little bit more professional now. But anyway, so I'm in there, and I'm just like, all right, board of directors. I got wisdom, knowledge, understanding, all of the angels, cloud of witnesses. And I'm like, all right, guys, I said exactly what you told me to say, and now it didn't work. What do we do? I said, tell him to do the same thing again. So I told him, I said, hey, man, try it again. He said, all right, I'll try it again. I said, make sure that you adhere to every single word that I told you. He said, okay, I'm not going to skip. I said, don't skip no steps. Don't try to be cheap. Do exactly what I told you. So he went back and came back. He said, bro, it didn't work. And at this point, he's hinting on, like, you going to give me my money back or not? You know, like, I'm like, I already spent the money, to be honest with you. In my head, I'm like, I can't. This has to work because I cannot refund you at this point. So I said, look, man. I said, Lord, am I hearing wrong? Did I hear from, you know, the enemy? Or like, is somebody deceiving me right here? I hear again, no, man, tell him to go and try it one more time. And I said, look, man, can you try it again? And he says, look, because I respect you and because you've been so good to me, I'm going to try it again. But Grim, this doesn't work. And I said, but you're going to try it again. And he says, yeah, I'm going to try it again. So I'm like, now I'm pouring all my faith into it. I said, all right, perfect. It's going to work. Don't worry. I'm getting off the phone. I'm like, okay, in the name of Jesus, this has to go. You know, this has to go. So I get a phone call. I'm actually in church, and he leaves me a WhatsApp voicemail. I love you. I cannot believe it. I tried it the third time. It works. And not only did it work the third time, but it's worked every time since then. And now I've been able to take that exact same procedure that literally, not made up, but I don't know how to think of it a different way. But the procedure came out of thin air from wisdom, knowledge. It didn't exist in the world, and turn around and sell that multiple times. Like at least 5, 6 different times, that same $10,000 SOP that I made up and he tested. in faith, right? So in the thing. So I'm going through all this and I'm like, yes, money, got it. Period. Lord, provider, Jehovah Jireh all day, right? That's the Lord. And now here's the thing. It was interesting to me. How good is God? I've been really on this for a while. How good is God? Because your perception of him is going to be your reality of him. And this is why anymore I don't enter into vain disputes with someone else that is like, let me tell you, brother, because I know from the Lord, this is how God is. Because you know what? You're right. For you. That is how God is, because that's who you think he is. If he's going to judge you, he's only going to give you what you deserve, then yes, you're absolutely correct. But as for me, my God is able. Now here's the thing. A God who is able to do exceedingly above all that you ask or think, according to the power that is working in you. But notice that he says able, not that gonna, not he's gonna. God is not gonna do he might, but what I'm saying is when you're praying, God is not going to do exceedingly above or beyond, just that he's able. He's able. What brings forth the able? Your belief in him. Your belief that he will do it. And here's another thing. How good is he? Well, if he's as good as you can perceive, well, I would submit to you that he is able to do exceedingly above and beyond anything that you ask or think. So if you can ask or think it, you're wrong. You see what I mean? If he's as good as you, but he's able to do more than you can think or ask, then if you can think or ask it, it's a yes. It's a yes. He's able. He's absolutely able. I don't go crazy and pray for people to do weird things or nothing, you know what I'm saying? But I am saying that, and then according to the power where? That's working in me. That power that's working in you, able to do exceedingly above what you can ask because there's something else in you. See, the soul comes up and it says, here's what I'm thinking, here's what, that you would know the manifold. What is the fullness of the width and the height and the depth? These are dimensions that I can understand, to know. So these are dimensions that I can know, to know the love of God that surpasses knowledge. Now we're getting into a conundrum to wait, there's knowing. There's like a, there's a knowing God. And then there's a knowing God that is past knowing God. That we know, we can't know. You just can't know. It passes knowledge. You can't quantify this knowing God. And that's his goodness. That's his mercy. That is how much he can do. In oneness with the worship team, when we're singing, I will testify, I will praise. Your praise will forever be on my lips, because this is the same God of Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and Grim, Lettingham up here in Celebration City, and you, and Chrissy, and Gerard, and James, this exact same God that, dude, this is not a game anymore, right? We're not just coming to church. We're not just living in business. We're not just going to the grocery store. Everywhere that we're going, we're carrying the fullness, that the fullness of Christ would dwell in your hearts. That means when I walk out, I'm carrying that Jesus there with me. Here, when you say, I met Grim today at the gas station, no, you met the Lord Jesus Christ, right? There was a lady that I just sold a phone. I went and sold a phone. I said, look, man, here's the case if you want the case. But the only problem is I super glued a Jesus pop socket back onto it. This lady is a stranger that I met on Craigslist. She said, I love Jesus. He just gave me a phone. And I said, I did, and then, are you God? No, you're not. No, you're not. But do you carry the fullness of, are you Christ? No, you're not. But do you carry the fullness of that same person? Yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. And all glory to him. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So I'm hanging out with this guy, Paul. And Paul tells me, he's like, yo, man, I got this guy. Maybe you can come pray for him. The guy is crippled. So he goes in. He's super agitated with the guy. The guy's letting him stay there so Paul can be a caregiver for him. And so I'm sitting there and I'm praying for the guy. And the guy is just like, he's wheeled into the front chair. He sits down on the front chair and he's broken. Like, he's just messed up. And so I could see, as I'm telling this man about the Lord, I can see that he's receiving. I can see that he's receiving. And Paul's like, look, man, let's go to the bar and just hang out, just me and you, because Paul needed ministry too. Paul said, I'm just going to go to my favorite bar. Paul is struggling with alcoholism. So I'm like, that's where you want to go. I mean, I guess we'll go to the bar. So I'm sitting there at the bar, and I want to minister to Paul. But over the intercom, they're playing music in the background. I hear, what if God was one of us? And I'm like, you're tripping me out right now, like just a stranger. And, and I'm like, bro, I said, Paul, I gotta go. So I left, and I walk back to this man's house, the caregiver's house, the crippled man, right? I look through the window. He's still on the chair, and he cannot move. And the Lord tells me he's going to give his life to me. He's going to give his life to me. And I'm knocking on the door, and the dude's trying to get up. And I say, Lord, if he's going to receive Christ, then he's got to get up. He's got to unlock this door for me so I can get in, right? And could he have received Christ without that? Yeah. But in my head, I had to lay hands, repeat the Lord's Prayer, right? I've been trained, right? Say this after me. You're saved. Don't worry. Going to heaven. Good. And so I'm like, he's got to get up. And so I see him rocking. I said, in the name of Jesus, be healed. Now, does healing only exist for the believer? No, the Bible never says that. The Bible never says it. Say, lay hands on the sick and they recover. In fact, a lot of the people that came to Jesus, it said they saw the works that he did and then believed. After. Feed them. Boom. The unbeliever, feed them. How many unbelievers are we like this crippled world and they do not believe in God? You know, let them get whatever they're going to get. How many of them would be a believer if you showed them that same fire, that same God that was living inside of you? Guys, this guy, he rocks a couple of times and he stands up. Maybe he has some walking ability beforehand. All I can tell you is what I know. And that was that he wheeled him in, and that Paul, the caregiver, said he couldn't move. So he got up, walked to the door, unlocked it. And I said, brother, are you ready? Are you ready to receive Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior? He said, yes. I laid my hands on him. I prayed for him, and he accepted Christ right there. Healed the crippled man so that he could be healed spiritually, right? Unbelieving sick people. The prayer, the effectual, fervent prayer of the righteous man avails much. It will achieve much. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. All right, I'll do a couple more on healing, just one or two. This was from our sister, Diana. Diana came in. We were having some sort of party. It might have been 1st of January, New Year's party. And she comes in on Mr. Borkman's wife. She comes in on like the weirdest crutch thing I've ever seen, but it's like a roller skate or something. But her leg's up like this, and she like scoots with, I don't know how to explain it other than it looked like a bicycle for one foot. Yeah. And so we were trying to get something out of our car, and she had wheeled out there, and I went to open the back of my hatch. Sometimes, Father, thank you for humility all the time. But I go to open the back of my Porsche. I'm coming from a homeless people, right? And as I hit her thing, I'm like, this thing is in my way. I'm not even like out of the goodness of my heart, like just trying to heal her. It's out of inconvenience that I tried to open my door, and this crutch thing is in the way. And I thought, this thing is in my way. And I said, be healed in the name of Jesus, right? And then Claude said, Claude's right beside, he said, get up and start walking towards me. And she did. She let that thing roll off she got out and let it roll out, and she had her cast on. Well, the Lord had told my wife beforehand, before she came to the church, he said, bring an extra pair of shoes. My wife said, I don't need an extra pair of shoes. He said, bring an extra pair of shoes. She gets in there and she decides, I don't need this cast anymore. Does anybody have an extra pair of shoes? My wife said, I got an extra pair of shoes. Puts the extra pair of shoes on her. Then, not only was she healed, right? So at that point, I believe, yes, leg is healed. No, we have the final game is a cakewalk where, if and then you got to, so you need feet, right? And you got to be quick, right? You got to be quick. Not only did she play the cakewalk, she won. She beat, there was one point where she had hip bumped with that same leg, hip bumped another lady out of her seat so she could sit down real quick. Won the cakewalk. Came in on a crutch, left with, we didn't have a cake. But if we had one, she won it, right? I don't know what she got instead. She got some sort of prize. But that's, miracle, the ability to do that. That is the same. So I just want that fire to just be blowing in you, that as you go forth, this isn't just church time, man. This isn't just church time. This is a living, breathing, moving God that is able to heal. I'll get a little mystic with you. Went to the movie theaters. This is real. This really happened. Mono Kante was there. I went to the movie theaters, and Mono's like, I'm waiting for you outside of the door of the movie theaters. I said, no, you're not waiting for me outside of the door of the movie theaters. I'm in front of the door of the movie theater. He said, bro, I'm waiting for you at the movie theater. And I said, I explained my story. I said, at the thing with the thing and the thing. He says, that's where I'm at. I said, bro, you're not here. I'm in front of it. And then, boom, he appeared in front of me. And we looked at each other and we like, wait a minute. Or he walked through the door, like he was just right, like there's like 6 or 7 feet. And it's not like a crowd of people, so there's no way he just like materialized out of the crowd of people, but he just appeared. And he played it off super cool. He's like, well, that was weird. And then kept going. But I was like, I truly believe that the Lord just allowed for a second. We've been working on this oneness for a while, this praying with each other, this thinking about this God, this awesome God, this amazing God. And I think that just for an infinitesimal second, the Lord let us see what it was like when he moved. It says he hid himself through the crowds. And it was real. You remember that, Manu? Yeah, it was a real thing in front of a movie theater. And it's just like, this is everyday life. I'm just going to the movies, and there are things that scientists would write a book about. They would sit a son of God down on a chair and be like, explain to me the quantum mechanics behind how this line is not possible. It would revolutionize everything around it. That's the God that we serve. So I'm not going to go through any more of these, right? I mean, yeah, maybe if we have some sort of testimony night, I think Brother Manu runs it. Might give a little bit then, but I just wanted to burn that into you, to let that burn. That is, let's go, bro. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, maybe we won't remove all of the death from the earth, I guess, as it's being sown and reproducing. But do we have the ability to change? That man that was healed, the witch doctor that was healed, you see Diana now. Diana wasn't coming to church. She grew up in religion. You see Diana now. She's an authority of life and friendship and love and peace. Does she change the world around her? Yes. Yes, she absolutely does, right? Can we do that same thing? Dude, 100%. These people with their COVID and their scientists and their wars and their rumors of wars, and yeah, all of those things have to happen. But look, bro, you do not have a trickle. You do not even have your idea of power and control that you have from the world is a joke compared to the God that we serve. I will wipe out your debt. I'll wipe out your debt. I will move people. I will bring someone from 1,000 miles away to be here right in the perfect amount of time because you need a glass of water. Thus says the Lord. That's who we serve. These guys are a joke. They're a joke. They don't know power. It's not power. But the word of God was not in, but of power. Of what? Persuasive words. Right, exactly. That's why today I didn't want to hit you with some, because I'm dope with words, I ain't gonna lie. I didn't want to hit you with some revelatory thing. But a power, that's the word that you use. You don't need all of that. And a lot of times as the son, we learn so many things and we start to apply. And that is great. Look, man, there's nothing wrong with that. Be ye therefore a doer of the word, and don't deceive yourselves. Absolutely do that. But remember, at the end of the day, the gospel is so simple that if you can't go to an Aboriginal village that doesn't speak English and give it to them, it's not it. That's not it. That same power anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. And that is the power that you have. That's the power that you carry. Amen.